Well, this is the first time that I've taken off my S&S Super E Shorty carburetor off my Harley. First thing I did when I took off the main backing plate is that prefer to use a red pointer. This guy right here, this gasket was not on. I've been having some problems with a little bit of hesitation below 3,000 RPMs. The tech instructions at S&S carburetors say that if that happens, then usually one culprit could be a intermediate jet, or in the old days we called it a pilot jet, which is in here, needs to be adjusted. And for my case, it's possible that that means that the intermediate jet that's right underneath there is going to be too small, but I don't know because I haven't cracked it open yet. The first thing I did when I got it off is I looked it over. There's a couple of things that I'm going to replace the whole thing on a master rebuild. I'm going to replace this and all these here, and these springs. Springs are the tricky part, I think, in this. The springs are the tricky part. So you have a spring on this side that hits this plate right here, and then there has to be another part for the spring to anchor to, so when you open up the throttle, it snaps back. And that spring is very hard to see, but it's located right in there. The other spring on the other side here, where for the acceleration pump, is located here on top, right there, and then it wraps to right, where the heck is it? Right here. So you have one here, right here, and one there, right there. Acceleration pump screw, air fuel mixture screw, and then you can hardly see it, but the idle screw is right there, and that's where the other spring is right next to this screw down on the plate. This whole thing's going to have to be dropped into chem bath, like in the old days, in the old school days. This whole thing here was dirty, extremely. As a matter of fact, if you look at the spacer I pulled off it, the manifold Super E insulator, this thing here, you can see, was not, doesn't look like, anyway, it doesn't look like it had a good seal on it. This could have been causing some of my hesitation. I've got an air leak coming in here because there was no filter, or no gasket, and the filter wasn't doing its job, which is troubling in and of itself, though my plugs look pretty good, I have to say. And then you got on this side here probably an air leak coming in. I don't know if this thing has ever been overhauled. From the looks of it, probably not. It's going to be interesting to find out to me what the main jet looks like and what the pilot jet looks like when I crack it open, and I'll show you that in the next video segment. Okay, well, I just cracked the bowl from the body, and you can see here it's pretty clean. The reason why it's so clean is because there was a great shop in town who told me one day when I took it in for a different issue. I had a primary leak which has since been fixed, and it's kind of hard to see, but he said he cleaned it. Boy dang did he ever. I mean, this sucker looks really good. Look how nice that looks there. I'm still going to drop it into the bath, but there's two things here. There's the intermediate jet, which goes, I don't know if you can see it right here, right there. The intermediate jet goes in right here. And then in the emulsion tube here, this is where the main jet goes. Now I think I found another part of the problem with the intermediate stuttering or jerkiness at low RPM. The pilot, the intermediate jet here, when I pulled it off, is really lean. It's not even close to what most of them are recommended for the size engine I have. This is 0.265. They recommend a 0.295, which I've just ordered. The main jet is interesting as well. It's supposed to be 0.72, and this one is a 0.74, and also it was kind of burred up a bit here on the end, so I'm going to clean that up anyway. Drop these two things in the chem pail when it gets here, and just keep them in case I need them. But this is going to be changed out right here, the main jet, to a 0.72, and then the intermediate jet, or the pilot jet, is going to be up 2 sizes to 0.295. This one alone would probably cause the stuttering for my fitment right now. I bet you they did that because they probably wanted higher performance on the high end, and so when this was lean, it would kick in the main jet sooner, especially at higher RPM. So at higher RPM, it would kick in, and more fuel, more power. So since I'm doing more street riding than I am trying to impress anybody on the drag strip, let's say, I'm going to put this one up to 295, bring this one down to 0.72. If this part here needs to go up, at least I have a 0.74 on hand after I clean it up. But this thing was pretty burred up actually when I took it off. Right here on the end, I'll probably take a little bit of sandpaper and rub down the burr. But otherwise, it's still a pretty good jet to use. And this one, of course, was in really good shape. So clean because of performance cycles. It's too bad they went out of business. They were a great little outfit, and did great work on my bike when I needed them to. Next thing to do here, though, is I took this off, but I put it back in because I want to measure the float level. And if you can see here, the float level here, and this is supposed to be between the top of this and the float, about 1/8 of an inch or so. And so I'm going to be measuring that here in a little bit with one of these right here. And you can see here that the bottom pulls out. It's just enough lip for me to tell on this side if I'm down 1/8 of an inch or not. It doesn't look like to me, just by pressing on it, that the float needs to be changed at all. I'll keep the float, of course, in this fitment when I rebuild it. One other thing to note is make sure you always have there's a little blue O-ring right here. That sucker's got to go back on when this goes in. This part here is pressed into the body here, and then in the bottom here is where you have your little acceleration pump diaphragm, and so we'll check that out next.